I grew up with violence in my home.
We all remember him as the good guy. The lovable, charismatic Fresh Prince who battled aliens, saved the world, and was always the coolest guy in the room. He was the celebrity you could show your mom without a second thought. For decades, Will Smith built a legacy that was, by all accounts, perfect. He was a Grammy-winning rapper, an Oscar-winning actor, and half of what appeared to be the most stable power couple in Hollywood. He was the gold standard. But in just a few short years, the perfect facade has crumbled. His name is now synonymous with scandal, and his public persona has been shredded. It's a complete 180 that has left us all asking, what happened to Will Smith? And why is every attempt he makes to win us back just digging a hole deeper? To understand the disaster, you have to go all the way back to the foundation of his career. Will's path to superstardom was a deliberate, calculated masterpiece. It didn't start with movies. It started with music. As one half of the duo DJ Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince, he carved out a unique space in hip-hop. He was the rapper who didn't curse. The guy who made feel-good, story-driven anthems like parents just don't understand. In fact, they were the very first duo to win a Grammy for Best Rap Performance. He was clean, witty, and unapologetically wholesome in a genre that was, at the time, defined by rebellion and grit. This clean image became his superpower. It's what allowed him to transition seamlessly from music to television with the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, playing a fictionalized version of himself that the world instantly fell in love with. He was so good that he even got a Golden Globe nomination for it. From there, the movies were a whirlwind of success. Bad Boys, Men in Black, Independence Day, I Am Legend. He became a global box office king with a record of 25 major awards and 75 nominations across his career. His superpower was his likability. He was the guy you wanted to be friends with, the guy you trusted to save the world. But that meticulously crafted image was already being quietly tested behind the scenes. In the public eye, he and Jada Pinkett Smith were the perfect Hollywood couple. They were married in 1997 and went on to have two creative, successful children, Jaden and Willow, who also followed in their famous parents' footsteps. The Smiths were the family you aspired to be, a seemingly impenetrable fortress of happiness in an industry notorious for its fleeting relationships. But in 2013, the first crack appeared. Jada gave an interview where she said something that would haunt their marriage for years to come. She said, "I've always told Will, you can do whatever you want as long as you can look yourself in the mirror and be okay." The internet exploded. People immediately assumed they had an open marriage, a rumor that Jada tried to shut down by saying they had a grown one. But she never denied the speculation, leaving the rumor mill to run wild. In the years that followed, there were more bizarre, confusing statements and a leak of some very suggestive photos of Will and his co-star Margot Robbie. Will and Jada tried to brush it off, but the perfect image had been permanently tarnished. And then, in 2017, the family dynamic took a turn for the worse. Jada met a young musician named August Alsina through her son, Jaden. They became close, and after a quiet separation from Will, Jada entered into a romantic relationship with Alsina. For years, the details were a closely guarded secret. But then, in 2020, Alsina dropped a bombshell in an interview, claiming he had an entanglement with Jada and that Will had given them his blessing. The internet was in a frenzy. A month later, Will and Jada sat down for a now infamous episode of Jada's podcast, Red Table Talk, to clear the air. The conversation was so awkward it was physically painful to watch. Jada confirmed the relationship, which she called an entanglement. Will, looking like a man who had the life drained out of him, sat quietly as Jada recounted a story that cemented the public perception of their relationship. The clip of Will looking broken as Jada said she had gotten into a different kind of entanglement became a viral meme, a symbol of a man whose public dignity had been utterly destroyed. It was the final nail in the coffin of his perfect image. He was no longer the cool, in-control hero. He was a punchline. He was a broken man, publicly emasculated by his wife. The internet began to mercilessly clown on him, with 50 Cent even joining in, sharing private DMs where he joked with a clearly distraught Will. A resurfaced clip of Jada filming a visibly uncomfortable Will while he was trying to work only made things worse, with people tweeting things like the Fresh Prince of Despair. He had spent decades building an image of a man in control, but now it was clear he had no control over his own narrative or his own home. And it's this shattered, publicly humiliated version of Will that walked into the 2022 Oscars. The slap wasn't a random act of violence. It was a pressure cooker of public humiliation and a decade of simmering resentment finally boiling over. He was a man desperately clinging to a persona that no longer existed. And in that moment, when Chris Rock made a joke about Jada, he snapped. He went from the likable, charismatic movie star to a man screaming obscenities in front of the world. The slap was the physical manifestation of all the emotional damage he had been trying to suppress. And the consequences were immediate and catastrophic. Multiple film projects were put on hold, and he was banned from the Oscars for 10 years. His decades-long career of being the cool, unflappable leading man was over. He had to take a hiatus from the public eye. But you can't keep a Hollywood legend down for long. Will Smith is now back, and it's become clear he's on a massive PR run to try and win us back. But like a character in a bad movie, the sequel is not living up to the original. He's been doing a frantic series of interviews, freestyles, and even bizarre collaborations with YouTubers like KSI and XQC, a move that feels desperate and out of touch. The problem is, Will Smith's whole career was built on being effortlessly cool and authentic. Now, his efforts feel forced, like a man trying to reverse a car crash with a PR spin. His recent music comeback has been even more of a disaster. He put out his first solo single in 2 decades, a track called Pretty Girls that has been torn apart by fans online, with some calling it humiliation ritual. Other critics have pointed out that his recent songs are all defensive, with lyrics that try to address his critics and his public image in a way that feels self-aware and insecure. He even admitted in an interview that he called Jay-Z and Kendrick Lamar for advice on his comeback. And while their advice was don't fake your story, it seems like he hasn't been able to take it. The music, the interviews, and the collaborations all feel like a desperate attempt to be a version of himself that no longer exists. A family-friendly, PG-13 throwback that's long past its prime. The stimulus plan that he's naming is not working for a 56-year-old Will Smith. At his core, Will Smith is a performer who has spent his entire life crafting an image that the world could love. But in the social media age, where every secret is exposed and every mistake is amplified, that image has become his prison. The slap wasn't a random act. It was the final, tragic climax of a man who had lost his ability to control his own narrative. His current attempts to rebuild his legacy are failing not because he's a bad person, but because they're inauthentic. He's trying to be the old Will Smith, but the world has seen the man behind the curtain. He needs to stop trying to be the Fresh Prince and start being a man who has lived through a public disaster. A man who is imperfect.
Is a part of my DNA, part of it from difficult aspects of my childhood. I grew up with violence in my home, so I developed, a really acute emotional sense, out of defense. I just needed to make sure that my father was okay. I needed to make sure things were going well.